I want to apologize to you. I have been writing columns and have suggested to you in these videos that the Democrats didn't have an agenda. In other words, they were just nihilists. But I went back and looked at everything they've said, everything they've written, what their surrogates in the media have done, and I discovered they do have a counter agenda.
You have accused Donald Trump of using racist tropes. In fact, you have called him a racist and divisive.
In a striking reversal, Victor Davis Hanson confesses to underestimating the Democratic Party.
Yet Donald Trump has the support of millions and millions of Americans. How do you explain that?
I'm glad you are pointing these comments out that he has made that have resulted in a response by most reasonable people to say it's just wrong.
Where he once saw a landscape of ideological nihilism, he now sees a meticulously organized counter-agenda, one that is deliberate, methodical, and in his view, deeply consequential for the future of the United States.
A tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president attempted to use race to divide the American people.
This revelation is significant, not only because it reframes the Democratic Party's approach, but because it exposes the deeper ideological battle that defines contemporary American politics. If Hanson is correct, the political divide is no longer just about policy disagreements. It is about fundamentally opposing visions of the nation's trajectory. Let us break down his argument, point by point, and examine what it reveals about the state of American governance, media narratives, and ideological warfare.
The first is that Donald Trump must be considered, as Chris Matthews just said, a Mussolini-like figure.
My husband and I sadly know a little something about this. For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. Made him feel threatened by the existence of two hard-working, highly educated, successful people who happen to be black.
He must be opposed in every aspect. He must be demonized. Everything he does is evil.
The President of the United States is racist.
Donald Trump has shown us his dark heart, has shown us his racism.
We've got this flexible definition about what a racist is.
They shouldn't slap your hand hard when they shake it. They look you in the eye. They don't blink. They stand tall and they have dignity.
Whites only. Bring me the Norwegians.
And by extension, the same is true of Elon Musk. You must consider him an alien that should go back home to South Africa, that he's not a true American. He's only been here 23 years. You cannot talk about his Tesla revolution that pretty much saved the idea of an electric vehicle. You cannot talk about the successes of SpaceX. You cannot talk about saving social media by opening it up and getting the government out. You cannot talk about giving free internet service to Ukraine. He's evil, and everything he does must be opposed. And we must continue that to the point where he is depersonalized.
It really come as quite a shock to me that there is this level of really hatred and violence from the left. Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful.
The second thing I've noticed very quickly is ICE is wrong. You have to stop ICE from deporting anybody, even if they're a criminal. Open borders are completely normal. We let in 12 million people under Joe Biden. We have no apologies whatsoever. No major Democrat has come forward and said we made a mistake. We've overloaded communities like the San Joaquin Valley or the Rio Grande Valley or the inner city.
We had over 600,000 illegal aliens with criminal convictions walking the streets of this country. So we got a lot of them to find.
She's continuing her resist efforts against your efforts, Tom.
I forgot more about the Constitution and immigration enforcement as you ever know. I mean, I had to educate her during congressional testimony that entering the country illegally is a crime. Look what this president's done in just the first month of him being in office. Illegal crossings on the border are down 90%.
It's cost us perhaps $1 trillion in social costs. We apologize. No. Everything about open borders was wonderful, and we will try as Democrats as much as we can to stop ICE from deporting even criminals. Sanctuary cities are immune, 600 of them.
Trump is delivering exactly what he promised: a forceful, unapologetic execution of the people's mandate. He moves with relentless speed, dismantling conventions, defying opposition, and reshaping the political landscape with every decision. His approach leaves no institution untouched, no precedent unchallenged. And while his supporters see a leader fulfilling his word, others grow uneasy, sensing a disruption far greater than politics as usual. A storm that threatens to upend the very foundations of the status quo.
Radical Palestinians are to be favored over Israel. We see that with the controversy over Mahmoud Khalil.
Though I had received assurances.
Now, he was deported because his activity is in contrast to what the State Department guidelines suggest, and that is simply that they do not want to issue visas, whether green cards or student visas or other sort of visas, to people whose activity is in contrast or against the interest of the United States foreign policy.
Late Monday, the demonstrators got the news they hoped for.
We just got news!
There should be no cuts. No cuts in the federal government. We have a $1.7 trillion deficit. Joe Biden probably racked up $7 to $8 trillion in additional debt, but $36 trillion is no problem. We're not going to discuss it. All we know is there should be no layoffs. Everything that USAID was funding was fine, and the federal government was running perfectly until Donald Trump came. There was no abuse, fraud, anything.
More money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that.
Elon's doing a good job. He's a big cost cutter.
I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Ukraine, Donald Trump with his art of the deal antics, threatening to cutting off, restoring aid to Ukraine. It's a mess. We have to go back to the Biden approach. We'll do whatever it takes for as long as it takes. So we need to up the amount of aid, maybe $300 or $400 or $500 billion to Ukraine, and enable it to defeat Russia.
I'm not hearing from you, Mr. President, a thought that you owe the president an apology.
No, I respect President and I respect American people. I think that we have to be very open and very honest, and I'm not sure that we did something bad.
DEI should have never been cut out. We in the Democratic Party will find ways to work around these executive orders, but maybe we will have to reclassify the titles of diversity, equity, inclusion officers, but we will not give up on it. We had a recent air traffic controller supervisor who was leaking the test questions to DEI applicants. This is the type of activity we endorse. We have to be much more radical in our opposition. So when Donald Trump speaks before Congress, we must shout him down. Al Green is an iconic hero. Most of us refuse to censor him.
Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
He shook his cane and disrupted Congress. That's good. Jasmine Crockett is the new spokesman of the Democratic Party. And in association with that, also, it's very important for us to use the F word, the SHI blank word, the DICK word. We're going to make videos where we use this profanity. We're going to shout out that in Congress. The point is that to appeal to the lost middle-class supporter, we have to sound earthy, and we plan on doing that. We've got to create chaos. So anything Donald Trump, as I said, anything that Elon Musk does, any cabinet members' initiatives, we have to go hysterical. And the point is this: we prefer slow decline. We understand we had $36 trillion in debt. We understand we were running a $1 trillion trade deficit. We understand our military was shrinking. We understand that we were investing over $1 trillion in a commissar like DEI. I could go on. But that was a slow decline. It wasn't controversial. With the open border, yes, it was open, but nobody There was no hysteria. We just let in 12 million people illegally. We even flew them in at night so it wouldn't bother you. So the point is slow decline, quiet, calm is much preferable to loud restoration. Why cause all these problems? We were declining very slowly. We could have gone on like this for 20 years. But why did we have to suddenly think that we needed to stop and to arrest the decline?
So what's the truth behind all this? Is it just about stopping Trump? Or are we seeing the gears of a broader, more ruthless machine, a strategy to lock down power no matter the cost? If Hanson's onto something, is this politics as usual, or the calculated erasure of anyone bold enough to challenge the established order? Look at the targets. Elon Musk, once a darling of innovation, now under unrelenting fire. Coincidence, or a deliberate strike against a maverick who won't toe the line? When immigration policies flip overnight, when free speech and foreign policy get repackaged with no reckoning for past mistakes, is it conviction or a power play cloaked as progress? The deeper riddle isn't just what's happening, but why and where it's all heading. Who's pulling the strings, deciding which voices rise and which vanish? Who's really in control? And for the rest of us watching it unfold, where do we stand when the dust settles?